Marco had arranged for him to go and be with his mother's former roommate. Her name is Annie, her husband's name is Noel, and they have a cattle ranch in Australia. So he goes to be a jackaroo. He's gonna go be a cowboy. And he and the oldest son of Annie and Noel are like put together, and this guy's name is George, and George is his mentor. George is like, he thought Marco was awesome. George has just risen to new heights. And you'll see throughout this whole portion that Harry is just desperate for an identity. And in George is not looking for an identity. George knows 100% who he is. And so Harry and George are put together. They work all day long in the broiling heat. Like, Harry is completely beaten down by the Australian heat in the outback. It's just almost more than he can bear. So he throws himself into work. And they work from like hours before dawn until dusk. They're like passed out by 8:30 at night. They're so tired. But he loves the work. He loves the daily grind. He loves having something to do. He loves that he's alone. Like, he's just way out in the middle of nowhere with George and George's family. But there's no paparazzi. There's no one coming after him. There's no one detailing everything he does. He does still obviously have his bodyguards out there. Poor guys are like out in a hut, just sweltering throughout the day. And so he likes it because he can pretend for a little while that he's just a completely normal person. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody is treating him any differently. He is just one of the guys on the ranch. Super fulfilling for him. Unfortunately, real life continues to come knocking. And at one point while he's out there, he continues to get mail and packages from the palace. Paperwork, information about the charities he's involved in. But then one day he gets a letter from Pa. And what does the letter say? The letter says that Mummy's butler has written a tell-all book. Well, this is bad news, because Mummy's butler was supposed to be a friend. How treacherous of him. And listen to what Harry says about this particular memoir. See if it sounds familiar to you. Mummy's former butler had penned a tell-all which actually told nothing. It was merely one man's self-justifying, self-centered version of events. My mother once called this butler a dear friend, trusted him implicitly. We did too. Now this. He was milking her disappearance for money. Hypocrisy seems to be a special vice of his. What are the chances that he should describe himself while talking about the butler's book? I mean, isn't that just the irony of ironies that he would say that about somebody else's book in the memoir in which he is throwing everybody he's ever known and loved under the bus? It just is just crazy. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this passage is he talks about how George, he doesn't say he was obsessed with George, but the way he talks about George is as though he was looking to George to transform his personality. Like, Harry walks into every situation like a lump of clay, and then he waits for other people to mold him. And George happens to be the one in his vicinity that he likes the best. So he is turning into George. And he says here, there were no days off. Between the relentless work, the relentless heat, the relentless cows, I could feel myself being whittled down, lighter each morning by a kilo, quieter by a few dozen words. And this is the part that I'm like, I don't know. Even my British accent was being pared away. After 6 weeks, I sounded nothing like Willie and Pa. I sounded more like George. Well, 6 weeks is not... I could spend 6 weeks in England and I wouldn't walk away with a British accent. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, maybe you do have a different accent, but by choice. Nobody's accent changes in 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? I just think that he's looking constantly for Who do I be? Oh, you're really cool. I'll be you. So anyway, he couldn't be happier in Australia. But then trouble comes calling. Who should be sneaking up on the farm but the paparazzi? And the first day, the first guy that showed up, they captured him and threw him out. But Harry says, I knew there'd be more. They're like ants. You see one of them, there's more coming. And there were more coming. So he decided to pack up, go home, and that would be that. You know, his time here was done. It had been cut short by the evil press once again. They're always just driving him out of the places he loves, driving him out with spear and pitchfork. All he wanted to do was to go be a cowboy, a jackaroo, and even that was taken from him. Even that.